Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah amma ba'd. Welcome to Arabic Tryouts. This is Al-Yawm Al-Ashir. This is the 10th day in the Arabic Tryouts. Alhamdulillah, we're continuing with the teaching of the Huruf al-Hijaiyya, the Arabic alphabets in the Arabic language. Also preparing ourselves for Ramadan, for Shahr Ramadan. One of the goals that we encourage others to have is the goal of being able to read the Quran, the Arabic section, by time the month of Ramadan comes in. So if you take advantage of programs such as these, you'll be able to read the Arabic, inshallah, in the Quran, as well as take advantage of some Quran, like the Al-Fatiha course that we have. So in this particular course, we have covered from the Aleph all the way to the Zay, Ra and Zay. Okay, we are covered up to Aleph all the way to Ra and Zay. Okay, so that pretty much gives us 9 letters in total. 9 letters in total. All right. So just to keep everything fresh on our mind, we know that we have, when it comes to the point of pronunciation, I don't know, you can see that far over there on the board. Yeah, you should be able to. So, okay. So out of these 5 that we kept going over repetitively, we kept explaining that when it comes to pronunciation, there are sources of or points of articulation. All right, and we mentioned that there are 17 different sources or articulations, points of articulations for where a letter might come from in the Arabic alphabets, and we have placed them into 5. All right, we have placed them into the Jawf, which is the emptiness of the mouth, into the back of the throat, the Lisan, which is the tongue, and the Shafatain, which are the lips, and Halq, which is the throat, and Al-Khayshun, which is the nasal passage. All right. So far out of the 9 letters that we have covered, all right, you will find that out of one of these slots, you're going to find where those letters come from. We learned that the Aleph, okay, comes from the Jawf. The letter Aleph comes from where? The Jawf. That's what we learned. We also learned that the letter Ba, Ta, Tha, right? Dal, Zal, right? Zay. We learned that these letters here, from the 9 letters we covered, all come from the tongue. We learned that they come from the tongue. Different parts of the tongue, nonetheless, their source is still the tongue. Okay? We learned that, hold on, I made a mistake here. Not Ba, but we learned that Ba here is from the lips. Ta, Tha, Dal, Zal, and Zay is from the tongue. Ba is from the lips. We learned that Kha and Ha are from the throat, okay? Different parts of the throat, but nonetheless from the throat. The Kha comes from the front of the throat. The Ha comes from the middle of the throat, okay? Now, so out of the letters we covered so far, this is what we learned. We have Jim now. Where did we say Jim come from? It comes from the center of the tongue. We said it came from where? Jim. Okay? We mentioned that the Jim came from where? The center of the tongue. So that what makes it a what letter? We'll make it a tongue letter. We'll make it a tongue letter. We said it came from the center of the tongue. There are two other letters that does the same thing. All right? Yeah, when we get to that, we'll learn that. As well as Sheen, which is going to be one of the letters we're going to learn today. All right? So, in your mind, in your notebook, we covered a lot of this. This is what you should have. All right? So, in your notebook so far, you should be where I'm at. Okay? So, this is the point that keeps it with you to know where each letter come from. It's good to have it organized. All right? So, we have that down. Now, also a part of your notebook, what you would like to have is, after erasing these, because you pretty much should have that in your notebook. When it comes to al-halq, the throat, you should know that it's what? 3 positions. 3 positions to the throat. Front, back, middle, and back. Out of the letters we covered so far, the letters of the throat are only 2 that we mentioned. From the front, we have kha. From the middle, we have ha. Each position within the throat has 2 letters, bringing the total to be 6. So that means we have another letter here and another letter here. I forgot to mention, we have Hamza. We learned Hamza in day 1 of the Arabic tryouts. We learned some of Hamza in day 1 of the Arabic tryouts. So the Hamza come from the back of the throat. The Hamza come from the back of the throat. All right. So as we said, there are 6 letters that's in total for the positions of the throat. 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, 2 in the back. You can have that in your notebook. Organize your knowledge. What's the purpose of organizing your knowledge? Is that you can actually teach it in a systematic way. Okay? That people can get it. You're not all over the place. So you can organize your knowledge. This is the 3 positions when it comes to the throat. Now, also in your notebooks, you should have those letters that do not play well with other letters, which are the naughty letters. You don't have to call them the naughty letters like I do, which I took in from another Arabic book, Arabic Gateway. You don't have to call them that. But there are the letters, nonetheless, that do not play well with the other letters, which means they don't have beginning forms. They don't connect. So the letters that do not connect, you can call them naughty letters, whatever. But in your notebook, you should have them down. You should have Aleph, all of the letters we covered so far. Aleph, Dal, Thou, Ra, Zay. Okay? There are going to only be 6 letters that's of the naughty letters that don't have beginning forms. But we only covered 5. So that leaves us with only 1. We didn't get there yet. So these 6 letters from the letters we covered are the letters that do not have a beginning form. All right. So when we start learning how to read, we look at connecting letters. All right. So Aleph, Dal, Thou, Ra, Zay is not those letters that connects well. You should have that in your notebook. Now, moving us along. Okay. You should be able to do this. From out of the letters that do connect, you should be able to this is bad. Remember, it's going to share the same thing. This is ta. This is tha. This is Jim. This is Ha. And this is Kha. These all have the same positions. All right? You should be able to do that. Beginning, middle, ending. Because these have the same form, they share the same in the beginning, middle, ending forms. Same thing with Jim, Ha, and Kha. Because they have the same form, they share the same. You should be able to do that. Likewise, with Dal, Ra, Zay, from connecting from the back. This is important to understand because once you start to read, it's not going to look like the independent letter itself. Okay, so when you look in your Mus'haf or you look in the Quran with the English and the Arabic on the other side, you're not going to see it like this. All right, the independent form, you're not going to see it. When you look at a word, you're going to see them together. Okay, so when we look at a word, for example, like when we was looking at the word this is a word. Okay, this is a word. It doesn't look like the independent forms, right? Not at all. So that means we have to know the middle, beginning, and ending form so we can know which letter that we're looking at. So when we begin to identify, we know that we have an aleph. We know that. We haven't covered this letter, so we're not worrying about it. We know that we have a kha. That's a beginning kha. We covered that letter. We didn't cover this letter, so we're not worrying about it. We're going to cover this letter today. All right? So that's a middle sheen. We're going to cover the letter middle sheen. We didn't cover this letter, so we're not worrying about it, nor this letter, we're not worrying about it. All right? So we're able to identify this is the point and the reason why we need to know the connecting forms, beginning, middle, and ending. All right? So that you can learn how to properly read. You're not going to be able to read if you don't know their forms. Let's move on to the two letters that we're going to learn today. All right, so we have reached up to the letter Sin and Sheen. Okay, the letter Sin is written just like, the letter Sheen is written just like the letter Sin. All right, so when you see it, Sin, Seen. We're going to tell you where it comes from. It comes from the tongue. Seen comes from the tongue. In your notebook, under lisan or under the tongue, how you got it written, you want to write down the letter Seen. It comes from the tongue. Also, the letter Sheen comes from the tongue, but it comes from the center of the tongue, and it shares the same makhraj of, or the same point of articulation as Jeen. All right? So we have Seen, and we have, which have three dots, Sheen. This is our SH sound. Sheen. Like in Shahada. All right? So, it's the way that it's supposed to be written. The W looking supposed to be above the line, and the little hook at the bottom of the line going down. You practice on your writing as well. Okay? Now, Seen and Sheen is from the letters that connect. So if we say they from the letters that connect, that means they what? They have a beginning, middle, ending form. So their beginning, middle, and ending form is the same. So if we learn Seen beginning, middle, ending form, we already know what Sheen beginning, middle, ending form will look like. So let's do this. The beginning Seen. All right? Middle Seen, ending Seen. All right, that's our beginning, middle, and ending. Let's look at some words so that we can see it real time, right? And the word Salamun, peace, security, and salam. All right. And salamun, this is a beginning Seen. Okay? Where do the Seen come from? The tip of the tongue. What is the inherent quality of the Seen? We say it comes from where? The tip of the tongue. Touching what? At the front top palate. Seen. Its inherent quality is that it gives a whistling or a buzzing sound. Okay? And we have one other letter that had that same inherent quality, which in terms have the same point of makhraj, was what letter that we covered? Zay. So Zay, what you want to do in your notebooks, all right, we're going to do that next. The letters that share the same makhraj. Out of what we went for, we'll do that at the end of this class. So we have Zay and Seen. They both share the same makhraj, meaning point of articulation. They both have the same inherent qualities. It's a buzzing sound. Nazala. As-salam. You see that whistling sound? Nazala. As-salam. You hear it, right? Now, let's look at a middle Seen. Right? And this word, hissiyatun. Hissiyatun. The Seen here is a middle Seen. All right? Don't worry about the symbols on top because we didn't get to that. The harakats we didn't get to. We will, inshallah. So we're not going to worry about that. All right? But this is the beginning. How we know that. But this Seen here is the focus. That's the shahid. That's a middle Seen. An ending Seen is in the word use that mudaris, okay, which is a broken plural, but I want to use this word here, mudarris, okay? That's no mudarris. All right, mudarrisun, okay? Or my name itself, Nafisun. This is an ending Seen. The word Nafisun. Nafisun. That's the ending Seen. That Seen there. Pretty much, if you know the beginning, middle, ending to the letter Seen, if we add the 3 dots, it changes from Seen to Sheen. All right? Where does Sheen come from? The center of the tongue. Okay? Just like Jeem. Okay? Just like what? Jeem. Jeem and Sheen shares the same makhraj. Okay? In other words, you already know the drill as far as homework. Take the letter, write it 25 times each on the line. Take the beginning form 25 times each. Take the middle form 25 times. Take the ending form 25 times. Take the connecting forms all together. Connect them. Right? Whether it's Seen or Sheen, connect them and write that 10 times each. All right? Then go over to the Mus'haf or go over to the Arabic part in your Quran and identify these letters. That's simple homework. Identify the letters. It's going to make it easy. Also a part of homework because you never want to lose what you learned before. So you want to connect everything together. Go back and write 10 times each from Aleph all the way to Seen. So in other words, you're going to take, move this out the way. For example, you do like that. You go Aleph, Ba, you get it. Ta, Tha, Jeem, right? Ha, Kha, dal, thou, ra, zay, sin, sheen. Okay? This going to do what? It's going to keep it in order for you. You already know it. You'll know from Aleph all the way up to Sin what we cover. Write them out. It's going to help you memorize those letters. Reading the Arabic, understanding the Arabic is two different things. But reading, you should be able to set a realistic goal. By the time Ramadan come in, you can actually read the Arabic. All right? Not so proficient. That's going to take time. That's going to take time, consistency, and practice. That's not your point. The point is, you should be able to open the Arabic Quran and begin to read the letters. And what's going to encourage you is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ says in authenticated hadith that Alif Lam Mim is not one letter. It's not one letter. Rather, you get 10 hasanat for one letter. So he says Aleph is 10 hasanat. That's one letter. Lam is 10 hasanat. Okay? Mim. Imam Shafi, he pointed from this narration that the Prophet ﷺ did not include fahm, understanding. So if an individual read the Arabic and don't understand what it said, he still falls under the reward that is given for the person who reads the Aleph, still get 10. Even if he didn't understand the word. You understand? So you learning how to read the Arabic, you're going to get multiple rewards for each letter. So this should be an encouragement for you to read. Okay? So Tayyib. Now let's do our last exercise and this will be it. That is in your notebooks. What you want to do to keep your knowledge organized is that you want to write down the letters that share the same point of articulation. All right? What letters share the same point of articulation that we covered so far? If we look at, all right, they have the same articulation. Same, we're going to put here. Makhraj. Makhraj is point of articulation. They have the same makhraj. All right? They have the same makhraj. Let's look at ta. Tha. Nope. Ta and dal. These two share the same makhraj. Let's look at tha and zal. These two share the same makhraj. We're only going over the letters we covered so far. Let's look at Jim and Sheen. Same makhraj. Right? All of these share the same makhraj. Let's look at Seen or Zay and Seen. So in your notebooks, you can have all the ones that share the same makhraj. They come from the same place. They might have different characteristics, but they come from the same place. So let's look at that. Ta and da come from the tongue, but which part? The tip of the tongue. Okay? Dal, ta. They come, right? When we look at tha and thal, they come from the tip of the tongue, but the tongue is doing what? It's protruding through the two front teeth. Tha has ear on it. Thal does not have any ear on it. Okay? Then when we look at Jim and Sheen, they come from the center part of the mouth, the center of the tongue. Sheen and Jim. When we look at Zay and Seen, they come from the tip part of the tongue, touching up under this. But they have the same quality. You see? The other letters we talked about have the same makhraj, but they don't share the same quality. But when we look at Seen and Zay, they share the same quality also, as well as sharing the same makhraj. So you want to have that in place. All right? And also another thing is you want to get, especially when you start learning grammar, the most best way to learn Arabic is in Arabic. Okay? It's not really learning it from English to Arabic because we're still thinking English and we're not thinking Arabic. But when you learn Arabic from Arabic, you're thinking Arabic. All right? That's the purpose. You want to think like the language you're speaking, right? So that way you don't have to do that. So when we learn English from Arabic, what we're doing actually, we got to translate in our mind before we say the sentence in Arabic. So for example, if I want to say I want to go to the store, I'm thinking about how do I utilize the words to convey that in Arabic. But if I learned from Arabic to Arabic, that wouldn't be a problem because I already know how to use the jumla, right? أريد أن أذهب إلى الدكان. أريد أن أذهب. I would know certain phrases that go with certain phrases. I would know what not to use with certain phrases because I'm learning in the language, therefore I'm thinking in the language. So that's the advantage between learning from English to Arabic and learning Arabic. All right, I only said that because earlier you heard me use the word makhraj. Instead of just using a point of circulation, I've written it here. Like when you see me write al-jof al-lisan, I want you to start thinking along those lines. All right, you don't have to keep thinking about the English. You know the word. I gave you the word multiple times. Jof, the emptiness of the mouth. You know the definition? I don't have to say all of that. I told you tongue. That's al-lisan. You already know what it is. So you got it, right? Inshallah ta'ala, that's what we was able to bring today. Inshallah ta'ala, stay for the next two letters. Yeah, because they similar the same. So stay to the next two letters, inshallah ta'ala. Gadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.